The tragedy and the scale of the tragedy unfolding in the Mediterranean, just off the Peloponnese, with bodies being brought into Kalamata. This is something that I think we in the UK need to observe. Braverman needs to observe it because we are following Greece's example. Now, this was an overcrowded ship that sank on Wednesday. 78 have so far been confirmed dead, but many more were trapped underneath, below decks. 100 children and women certainly were trapped below decks. It was the smugglers' practice, as I know from talking to people who've been smuggled, to lock people up downstairs to stop a nuisance, to control people. But of course it puts them at greater risk. There are some survivors. I think there's 104 survivors, all men, from Afghanistan, Egypt, Pakistan, Syria. They're being treated, some of them are being treated for pneumonia and for exhaustion in Kalamata. But there were apparently 750 souls on board, and 500 are certainly missing, says Nikos Spanoudakis, who's one of the police officers in Kalamata. 9 smugglers have all Egyptian, have all been arrested. I don't know how they survived. They were aiming for Italy, and they ended up hitting Greece. It's exactly the same story that befell my partner's boat, that was coming from Turkey, aiming for Italy, ending up in Crete, in Chania. And that was in 2001, so the Greeks haven't learnt. In that case, the Greek Coast Guard fired rounds of shots into the hull. And this time, they didn't intervene at all. They watched it sink despite the cries for help. And as I say, I think it's a lesson for us. There's a process of pushback. And Suella Braverman looks to Greece, an example of best practice. Another country with contempt for the European Court of Human Rights, which has taken 20-odd years and has still failed to change the 4 laws that it was recommended to change after the trial that we went through, which was a result of the physical abuse and torture by Vandroulakis and Varoufakis, and the attempted cover-up by the Coast Guard and by the Greek authorities of the assault in 2001 in Chania. It's appalling that these people don't learn, and it's more appalling, I think, that that we in Britain think that this is a practice that we should follow. It certainly isn't. Pushback is absolutely abhorrent. What we need to do is to get processing centres in the ports in Africa, in the ports in Turkey, before people actually attempt these crossings. We need to process people so they don't end up getting into boats, so they don't end up relying on the smugglers. If we have the processing centres, then the smuggling operation is redundant. The smugglers can't function. Alexis Tsipras, who was the Prime Minister a few years ago, is astonished that survivors called for help and there was none forthcoming. The government in Greece has called for 3 days of national mourning, but it's all a bit of it's all wringing hands too late because they've been caught out. This practice of pushback and the failure to aid people in distress, this has been going on for years and years and years. I certainly have no intention of returning to Greece until the laws which are recommended to be changed are changed. I don't suppose whether I go or whether I stay makes one bit of difference. I have many good friends in Greece. I'm very fond of the country, but I think it behaved appallingly. I think it still behaves appallingly, and I think we are in danger of doing the same thing. It's not for want of examples of bad behavior. We can see bad practice. We can see it. And yet we, under the leadership of our Home Secretary, we are trying to emulate the same bad practice that is being carried out in the Mediterranean. It's simply, I was going to say it's simply madness, but I don't think it is madness. It's evil, and it's wrong.